Welcome to the Igniting Hope podcast, where you will experience catalytic encouragement and practical tools to renew your mind with truth instead of lies, so you can experience transformation in your emotions, circumstances, and influence. Let's break off self-limiting beliefs together like never before.
The title of today's message is Count It All Joy. If you're a podcast listener on a regular basis, you hear me talking frequently about joy, or every time about joy at the end of the podcast, and that the joy of the Lord is our strength. There's no convenient season to be radically joyful. Thanksgiving and delighting are key components to activate joy. I want to give you a third one here that's really powerful. James says this in James 1, 2, and 4. It says, "Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds. For you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness, and let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing." And it says this, "Count it all joy, my brothers, for you know something." It says when you meet various trials of various kinds. For you know that the testing of your faith produces, and it goes on there. Now, James is telling us basically that life is a test. And as I talk about this, let me just tell you what I'm not saying. I'm not saying we be passive and we never resist things and we just say whatever is happening, God brought it into our lives. And I'm not going to get into a theological discussion on why things happen. My book, Cracks in the Foundation, really covers a lot of that. But I just want to say this. Life has various trials that happen to it. Things that happen that we don't want to have happen. I'll call them a various trial. And James tells us here, he says, count it all joy when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know. And again, you can only have joy if you really know something. It's what Paul says in Romans 5, verses 3 and 4. It says, not only that, but we glory in tribulation, knowing that tribulation produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. And it says there's something that you know that causes you to see something in the various trial that is going to set you on a course that's going to be powerful. And so he says it's a testing of our faith, or it's a testing of our belief systems. And so if we can figure out within the various trial about what belief system or what is being tested in our life, then it's going to give purpose for it, for our lives. And it's going to lead to some good things. It's going to lead to a place that's described of lacking nothing, which is really, really good. Hear this. What's happening in us is almost always more important than what's happening through us. What's happening in us is almost always more important than what's happening through us. Our response to something is almost always more important than the something. Because our response is either going to take us higher or another lap in the wilderness. Now, I've done a lot of laps, and I'll just say this. My response to things is not always at the highest level, but I'm responding better, much better than I used to. So he says, for you know the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. Another translation says patience. Another translation says perseverance. And so the testing of our faith, the testing of our belief systems creates this continuation, this ability to not quit, to not quit. And so if we're able to identify, okay, what am I being tested in? And what I love about God is that he gives open book tests. You study the word, and then you experience something. Your belief systems get challenged. They get tested by adverse circumstances, adverse feelings. Our decision making gets challenged as well through those, and we get tested. We get tested. Now, in life, in school, you study for tests, and then you take exams. Now, so many of life circumstances are like an exam, where I can just give you some examples. Maybe you feel underappreciated. Maybe you feel like somebody in your life is continually messing up your life. Well, these are trials. They're various trials that have something in them that if we can see, then that is going to give purpose for it. And it's going to be a key for where we're going in our lives. I remember in one of the churches I pastored, I had a person who didn't really like me much. And it was, she wasn't divisive or anything, but she just didn't really like me, didn't think I was a good pastor. And she'd sometimes be glaring at me while I was preaching, and I asked the Lord, why is she here? And basically I heard, Steve, she's a test for you, because you're going to learn more through her. You're being tested in your love. You're being tested in how you do relationships. You're being tested in not withdrawing your heart from people who disappoint you. You're being tested in how to speak the truth in love. You're being tested in how not to be emotionally manipulated by people. You're being tested in not dwelling on unresolved relational situations in your life. Steve, you need to be excited. You need to be excited. I remember being tested as a leader with low offerings. Wow. Okay, what's the test? Well, the test is I'm being tested again on believing who my source is. I'm being tested again on finding creative solutions to bring income in or to decrease expenses. I'm being tested, the testing of my faith, the testing of my beliefs. And so if we're able to find within the trial what God is doing in us, what we're being tested in, what it's really about. And again, I'm not saying be passive. I'm not saying we just allow everything to happen in our lives, that we never resist the devil. But I'm going after something here that is a key for us to walk in joy. Let me talk about frustration for a moment, things we're frustrated about. Usually within the frustration is something that God is doing in us, and that if we're able to see it, if we're able to know that, then we can count it all joy. We get excited about it. We get excited. I remember I got frustrated. Wow, I'm leading a church. People aren't really entering into worship. No, Lord, what are you testing me? Well, you're testing me on that I can have my own personal revival. It's not dependent on people. You're testing me on keeping my love on and not withdrawing my heart from people who disappoint me. You're testing me on how to inspire people rather than guilt people. Belief systems that I'm a leader, but you're testing me on what I believe about them, that I still believe that they're good people. And once I began to understand that, then I could get excited and joyful when I'd see people not worshiping, because I knew it wasn't just about them. It was more importantly about me, what the Lord was doing in me. Or maybe I'm frustrated about my kids, what my kids are doing. Okay, Lord, what are you doing in me as a parent? What can I get excited about? Wow, yep, here's my tendency. This is my response to that. I'm excited because you're having me overcome that response to go higher. And this is not so much about them, it's about me. And really, as we look at frustration is almost always a place where, people say, well, hey, what season am I in? What's God doing in me? Well, one of the things you can tie it to is what are you tempted to be frustrated about? Because that's almost always going to be an indicator of what your season is about and what you can consider all joy about. My, oh my. This is a good word. Let me read this again. Count it all joy, my brothers. I'm sure you're seeing sisters too. You ladies are not. You get to be a part of this. When you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness, and let steadfastness have its perfect effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. And it's really saying there's a maturing that happens to us, and there's not only a maturing of manifesting the character of God, but it's also a maturing that puts us in abundance where we lack nothing. And it really goes along with 3 John 2, where it says, Beloved, I pray that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers, because you get to the place where, oh, wow, once our soul prospers, and this is what this all joy thing is, once our soul prospers, we're unstoppable. It brings health, it brings prosperity, abundance. We're lacking nothing. Hey, this is a good word right here. If you like it, why don't you tell somebody else about it? And you can tell me. You can tell us. Write us at info@ignitinghope.com. Love it. If you do that, you don't have to, but if you want to, we always love to be encouraged. Hey, I'm going to be, let's see, where am I going to be? Traveling. I'm going to be, my wife, if you listen to this right after receiving it, right after it's released, my wife's going to be in Santa Rosa, California. I'll be in Germany at that time. I'm going to be in Casper, Wyoming in October as well. Then in November, I will be in Edmond, Oklahoma. I'll be in Round Rock, Texas, near Austin. If you're a podcast listener, why don't you come up and just say, hey, I listened to your podcast. It blesses me. I'm going to be in Medford, Oregon on a Sunday morning, at New Song in December, and also be in Mesa, Arizona in December. And we're starting a prophetic course, 4-week prophetic course, Igniting the Prophetic in You. That is happening starting in the middle of November. Hey, I bless you, everybody. This is going to be a shorter podcast than most. And I bless you with just a breakthrough in joy, that incredible, count it all joy, my brothers, my sisters, knowing something, the testing of your faith, it produces purpose in your season. Speak breakthrough over you. Look forward to being with you again on another podcast from Igniting Hope Ministries.
Thank you so much for listening. You can be a part of our live stream of this Igniting Hope podcast by joining our social media channels on YouTube and Facebook and hitting notifications. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing and leaving a review. Help us get the message of hope out to more people by liking and sharing this podcast. Also, we have so many more incredible resources for you, including books, events, and courses on our website, ignitinghope.com. And why don't you say this concerning the message in today's podcast? I receive it, and I'll never be the same again.